Let's see. Last but not least, we have myself. I'm going back to the video game scene with a game called Sunless Sea. Sunless Sea is a very interesting title. First and foremost, the most important and visually striking thing about it is just the setting. Let me take a minute to gush on the setting. Fallen London is what is it? Basically like a free-to-play kind of browser, choose-your-own-adventure story-like kind of game. But it's set in, well, Fallen London is set in the Untersee, which is a deep, dark, cavernous sea underneath the surface of the Earth. Uh, it is not. London has fallen like a mile underground. There is no sun in this deep, dark underground cavern, and all sorts of twisted, weird, and strange dark things lurk here. This is a very Lovecraftian kind of universe. So you're thinking Elizabethan London, darkness all around. Things are not always what they seem. People here don't really die. A little bit creepy there. But yeah, it makes for a spectacular setting. You have unique locations that you're going to go visiting on your little steamship that you take traveling the Untersee. Uh, the biggest problem, of course, is being that you're underground. It is dark everywhere. So one of the major mechanics, being dark and having, Lovecraftian themes to it, is that in the darkness, your crew starts getting terrified. If your crew gets terrified enough, well, bad things happen. So, man, there's just so much to talk about this game. So the gameplay itself. So this is Sunless Sea. It's based in Fallen London. It's a lot like its counterpart. The web-based browser game is like a choose-your-own-adventure novel. This is a lot like a choose-your-own-adventure novel, with between ports with a little bit of seafaring and combat involved. You're not really doing a lot of. I want to say you're not doing a lot of pick up and deliver, but you are doing a lot of pick up and deliver, just not like in a standard like trading kind of sense. The currency of the Sunless Sea is, well, you've got echoes, which are essentially, dollars or euros or whatever you want to call it. But the more ridiculous currencies are things like stories and memories and, well, talking rat people. There's a lot of strange things happen in this game, and one of the very first things you come across is like your first introduction.
Wait, hold on. No. Back up. You do not get a free pass on that one. Talking rat people are a currency?
In some ways, yes.
What?
Well, the Ratus Faber are particularly skilled engineers, so you can purchase them to repair your ship on the go.
Just keep going.
And there are more strange kinds of things like this all over the place. The very first mission you get is to transport what's called a tomb colonist. In the Untersee, people don't really die. They just keep walking around until their body starts falling apart. So once you hit about 100, 150, 200 years old, people don't really want you walking around downtown London anymore. So there's actually a colony of people like them called Venderbite, which is off to the north. You take anyone who is decayed too much to fit in with normal society. You take them up there, and they have their own little colony where they do all kinds of other strange things. Like one of the random events you get is you find a shop that makes wonderfully beautiful scented candles. The shopkeeper is like, the shopkeeper says, "Oh, you're admiring my work? Yes, we render ourselves very well up here." And you can see that she is missing an arm. She rendered her own body fat to make candles. And from that you get a Tale of Terror, which you can sell back at London for like $20. It's silly and it's cool and it has so many different ways to do things. But yes, this is a rogue-lite adventure. One of the main mechanics here is that you are going to die. In theory, you are going to die, because the only thing that actually kills you is sinking on the Untersee, or getting eaten by cannibals, which your crew will eventually turn cannibalistic if you don't supply them with enough food. The main part is going to be you just basically managing your ship. You are one little ship traveling around. You know where fallen London is. You have no idea where anything else is in the world. So your main job is exploring, finding foreign ports, bringing back, reports of what's happening at these ports back to the London Admiralty, and they pay you to keep going, traveling further and further out, finding new and exotic locations. To do this, you have to manage basically your ship's hold inventory. You can carry like 40 crates of stuff to start with, but that also includes how many barrels of fuel and how many crates of food you bring along. So if you bring along a lot of supplies, you don't have enough room for, say, talking claymen that want to work in London. Six spaces worth of your holds, and you bring back essentially animated constructs for cheap labor, and they pay you for their transport. Or you end up on an island with talking monkeys that like to steal people's souls and sell them back to you. There is actually some of the things and some of the just very unique different kinds of cargo you can take in the game. You can have a crate of human souls. You can have a jar of red honey, which is the concentrated memories extracted from a dying person. And there's parabola linen, which is a 4-dimensional fabric that you have to take to special seamstresses to make it work. It's everything you can tell about old, the Lovecraftian, old ones, things that happen that shouldn't work quite right, obscene geometries and things like that. Like, everything is incorporated into the storyline of this game, and it is just such a cool setting.
Okay, so the game that this sounds like the most to me was a game called Sid Meier's Pirates. Except for that was happy and cartoony, this sounds dark and Lovecraftian. So this leads me to two major questions that I think would seriously affect my personal enjoyment of the game and many others out there.
Gotcha.
Number one, how freeform is it? In other words, is this a linear storyline, or are you just sailing around doing whatever?
Gotcha. So, being a roguelike adventure, there are some random elements to it. Most of the sea resets between each different captain you have. Like, you will have a legacy. When one of your captains die, your next captain will inherit some of their stats and or items, equipment, money, etc. The islands themselves, however, will not change. There's basically every location you visit in this game has a self-contained story of its own, and they will not change between playthroughs, but each one is basically an entire, like, choose your own adventure, storyline, quest, whatever you may call it, doohickey.
But the location of those things will not always be the same.
Correct. So if you go to the island of Devils, Palmerston Island, which is like basically a volcano where devils actually reside, you can go through a quest line there. It was really close to where you started, and you could be done with that. Next time, that same island might be all the way on the other end of the sea, and it might be harder for you to find. The story there, however, would be the same. So if you knew how to get through it before, your next captain would be able to get all the rewards from that in a quicker fashion, since you know what's going on.
And are there a lot of unique islands?
Yes. The whole thing is divided kind of basically into sections, and in the randomization element, about 3/4 of the map gets jumbled up. I think there would be about a total of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. There's got to be at least like 35 or 40 different islands right now, which isn't too bad. And they are still increasing things as we keep going. So this is still a relatively new game. It actually just released a little over a month ago, and it was really cool. I think one of the sad things about the release of it was that this released at the same time as another kind of roguelite adventure called Darkest Dungeon, which was also an excellent looking game. If you want to give that a look up, I might talk about it on another date. But they both had unique, different roguelike elements. However, Sunless Sea went for its first release. So this is its full release, but it's still updating content kind of like it was in early access. Whereas Darkest Dungeon says it's still in early access, but was more of a finished and polished game. And quite frankly, was a lot easier to stream on Twitch because it had a lot more action than this one does. This one is very much a single player adventure with you going through a choose your own adventure books. And I like that. It reminded me a lot of I don't know if you ever played the Shadowrun that released a couple years back. Dragonfall and I don't remember what the other one is. But
I didn't, but I know of them, and you're really doing a lot to sell this game to me.
It is very story driven. So what are you saying?
I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
I was saying it's a very story driven game, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, story driven games are the best. They are awesome.
Let's see. Some things that I would have to say would put me off on this game just a little. Some of the criticism I got. Because I've played this through to completion 3 times, winning a different way each time. Because there are a lot of different end games you can do here. You're playing with the politics of the Untersee. So there are some major factions you can deal with, including Devils, which are the anarchist faction. There's the Fallen London Admiralty faction. There's the Dawn Machine, which is essentially a 300-foot tall light generator in the corner of the map. You might have seen it on one of the videos I was just playing. That kind of brainwashes people. Oh yeah, the big thing about being under the sea is that light is kind of lethal to you. If you go back, there's a way to go back up to the surface, or there's actually an island later on that you can find that has a crack in the ceiling so it gets some sunlight. And if you spend too long there, you start getting wounded and die. It's kind of fun, but there's a bunch of different ways you can end the game. You can try to start your own kingdom. You can try to discover who murdered your father. You can try to just retire with all the wealth in the world. These are actually ambitions you choose at your character creation. And it's like, which of these stories does your character want to follow in the grand scheme of things? A little bit like I actually want to say a little bit like Fallout 3. Like each individual location has its own contained stories, and then there are little bits of your main character quest throughout the different islands.
Well, that was a game I put 120 hours into, so that sounds good.
So let's see. The slight criticisms I have about it, it's still releasing content. I don't know if you could put that down as a good or a bad thing. To me, it says that the game wasn't quite finished when it released. On the other hand, you're getting new stuff all the time. My problem with that was...
I was just going to say, let me tell you, that actually sells the game for me more, because right now it means that I could play through the game a couple times and still come across islands I haven't explored yet. Just throwing that out there.
It would be cool. Let's see. The game is very much kind of a learning curve based game. And what I mean by that is that initially when you start, you don't know what the heck you're doing. So there's a good chance that you will die kind of early, especially if you're not too careful. You'll be like, I don't know where exactly I'm going, and you end up in the middle of an empty tile of ocean, out of fuel and out of food. And that's always fun. But it can be a little grindy when you're starting out, since you don't know the best way to actually keep your money going. There's a lot of ways to make a little bit of fuel, food, and money, but if you keep going through that over and over again, it does feel kind of grindy to actually get up to, like, say, purchasing a bigger ship for you to use or more supplies to go farther out. However, the problem is that after you get past that, once you start getting the hang of identifying where things are or are likely to be, that kind of barrier goes away. You finally start getting a really good sense of how to start getting a good head start on your next captain or your next ship, and you can actually go your entire first captain and not die. What happened to me, I'll just go through my personal experience, was that my first captain did not die. However, it was grinding so long to get me to a little bit further on and a little bit cooler stuff that I essentially just said, screw it, I'm going to start trying to take on ZBs because I want to figure out what they do. And one of them killed me while I accidentally ran out of fuel. That was cool, but my next captain lasted so long that he actually went and met one of the game's end conditions. So if you're looking for a roguelike game like FTL or something, like 2-hour sessions, you die, you come back, you get some cool stuff. This is not that game. This game, you can invest a long time in a character, 10, 20, 30 hours. I believe it took me about 30 hours for my first endgame condition. Also doing, of course, a lot of other of these side missions besides that. And yeah, legacy bonuses, things you need to perform. You need to do certain storylines to get a bonus to your next captain. Those aren't really clear to you until your first captain dies, and then you have to remember them. But I think this is a great single-player game. I think it fails a little bit as a roguelike, though, because it is very easy to get 20 hours into a character, and when that character dies, you are not very happy about it. I'm more of a bite-sized chunks for your characters. Then they die, and I move on to the next one. Because I did Rogue Legacy, I did FTL, I did a little bit of Castle of the Winds. That's a really old game. I don't know if anyone remembers that one. But yeah, besides that, that would be my only gripe against the game, is that the kind of roguelike elements, its fashions, and the length of time you can spend in the game don't really mesh perfectly. But other than that, magnificent stories. I love them a lot. All kinds of cool.
It seems really interesting to me. Like, I know I'm not saying much during the whole process, but it seems like one of those games that has a very unique theme,
Very much so.
which is a plus. You know, I give it big props for taking for innovation there. Maybe a little tedious in terms of, island hopping all around, but it doesn't seem terrible. I like the fact that you never really know where anything is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you do know where. Do you get a map?
Yeah. You get a map to travel around. It's a 2D map. This game is essentially made in Unity with a top-down view. So, if you start, like, let's say you found the principles of coral in your last map, so then you know what that kind of tile set texture looks like. So the next time you see that texture, you know, oh, I recognize that kind of rock. That means this certain port should be around this area somewhere.
Okay, but so I'm even saying, say you're still on your current captain.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've found a place, do you know where it is?
Oh yeah, you can travel between there and back to London and start searching around for that and all that.
Okay, so your map doesn't. It's not like you don't know where. It's not. You have a map to know where stuff is.
Mm-hmm. Your map is static per captain.
Okay.
Each captain will have a slightly different map.
Right. Which I think is interesting. Um, yeah, I like games. I like games that give you a twist every time you play it. Something that's a little different without being too different.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it has an appeal.
It's also nice.
David. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also nice that it has some of the different factions, because eventually, if you start playing the spy game, you can raise a faction to dominance in the Untersee. So you could say Fallen London is now supreme, or you could go through another faction storyline, which is now the Anarchist reigns supreme, or now the Dawn Machine reigns supreme.
Yeah, this. So, let me tell you about this. When you said you were going to talk about Sunless Sea, I sort of groaned inwardly a little bit. And the reason is I didn't know much about it, but I do know this. I am sick of two things right now: steampunk and Lovecraft.
Uh-oh.
I am so sick of both of those things. However, there are very few games I can replay because I am mostly interested in story mode, but once I've played through a linear thing once, I don't really have the desire to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So the only games I can really play through are those that have some kind of random element to them, which is one of the reasons one of my favorite RPGs ever is the original Diablo, in which each map is procedurally generated and you get a random set of quests every time.
That's cool.
One of my other favorite games is Sid Meier's Pirates, which this sounds very much like. But it seems like it's taking the best elements of those two games, i.e. a very dark setting, and that's somewhat procedurally generated, and an open world simulator where you can sail around doing stuff and making story decisions. And that basically sounds like the best game ever to me. So, yeah. I mean, it also sounds a little bit like a lot of people, I'm of the opinion, one of the reasons I'm sick of Lovecraft is that a lot of people are basically like, throw on Cthulhu and some tentacles and it's Lovecraft. And I'm like, not really. And this sounds like
it's definitely a lot more background in this game. Like when I first played it, I described it to someone else I was playing. It's like it's kind of Lovecraftian, and it didn't really throw a lot of those elements in your face until a lot later in the game when you're like, oh, there are dark gods that you don't see but have a little bit of influence on what's happening in your life.
Yeah, and I guess that's my point. That's exactly my point. It's not going, oh look, Cthulhu's in our game. See how he is? Look, really, tentacles. And it's like, this actually sounds like it's got the mood done well. So that sounds pretty nice to me.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite things is the way that they try to sell the game. Their intro to it is lose your mind, eat your crew, die. So there are definitely a lot of ways to die in this game. That would be, but going back to like my last gripe about the game would be that it is very obvious. It starts to get very obvious what you have to do to not die because it'll often say, "Do not do this," or "This could possibly wound you," or "Don't pick a fight with a giant crab that is larger than your ship and has 3 times your hit points."
You realize that some people are going to pick those just to be contrary, right?
Oh yeah, that's half the fun. But like I was saying earlier, once you start getting some of the tricks, like a lot of the monsters lose their danger element very rapidly. It's very easy to get away from them. So that's a little bit of danger. That's a lot of danger that you're avoiding right there. But there was something else I wanted to say about it. One of the problems is that the game wants you to play it safe, but a lot of the most interesting things happen when you don't play it safe. Like, you don't ever want to get to 100 terror because the game tells you it's bad. However, I know people that have gone through like 4, 5, 6 games never getting to 100 terror, and getting to 100 terror is hilarious. Like, it just says it's bad. It doesn't tell you exactly how or if you die. And there's like certain events that only happen when you're like 80, 90 terror, and it's like, Wow, this is interesting. I did not expect this. So that would be my tip for anyone who wants to play this game. Take a lot of risks and see what happens. Don't. The game tries to tell you be afraid of dying. Don't be afraid of dying.
So it's one of those games where like losing is actually pretty fun.
Yes. I would go with that. As long as you do it somewhere early, like in the 2 to 4 hour range, not when you're at 37 hours and like half a quest away from getting an end condition.
I'm trying to think what that reminds me of. That reminds me of something. I don't know.
There's a lot of things that the game kind of remind me of, but it's just so different in itself. It's hard to draw the parallels. Which I enjoyed the first time I saw it too. I was like, I have to get this game. I have to try it.
It reminds me of some of my deaths in King of Tokyo. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die epically.
Take everyone with me.
Yeah.
See, King of Tokyo is a fun game. I played it the other day, and it was like I had this excellent synergy of upgrades going, and then I won by just beating the shit out of the other guy.
Yeah, when that opportunity arises, you take it. But yeah, I think I went through pretty much all the basics and stuff without getting too spoiler or whatnot. Any other questions you guys had?
Not really. It sounds interesting to me.
It's very neat. How much is it actually? Let me go to quickly look. It is $19 currently on Steam. It goes on sale for a little bit less than that, so from time to time. But currently $19. I enjoyed it. I've gotten a good 50 hours out of it or something. I like it.
Yeah.
I really hope there is notice, however, that they might be working on modding tools, and I will be very excited if and when that materializes. Because I would love to be able to randomize some of the island stories or make new islands or things like that. Hopefully that drops soon. But yeah, game's only been out for a month, so if it sounds cool, definitely check it out. It is definitely a one-player experience, though. There's no multiplayer. There's no messing around with other players like in the Dark Souls, invade their world or something. Although that could be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. So advice to anyone who's playing this for the first time: take risks, do stupid things early, and then later decide, okay, this is the captain I actually want to survive. There is a boat in the very first town. You can downgrade your actual 40 cargo hold average steamer down to a one-man steam launch that has 1 hit point. If anything touches you, you die. But the bonus money you get from it lets you explore all over the place, and it's kind of hilarious to be like, okay, don't sneeze.
Wow.
I believe I went through it just out of pure fun, and I figured out you can actually succeed on a couple of the lifetime ambition quests with that little steam launch with your one-man crew and 5 cargo hold.
Nice.
Cool.
But yes, check it out. Go collect your outlandish artifacts and your 4-dimensional cloths and your Hellbringer deck guns and magically propelled super engine. That was a hard one to get, by the way. It is literally built for you by a magician. And yeah, go at it. Have fun. Sail off the edge of the board too. But don't do it with someone you really like. I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about Sunless Sea. I love it. It's a great game. Definitely hoping for the modding tools though. I really need a little bit more replayability out of it, because after you complete the game I completed the game twice, and it's like I really want a new story to drop before I go back to it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So that is Sunless Sea. Check it out. Steam or GOG.com. Fun game. Give it a try. And that is it for that one. Well, guys, we did all three of our different games. We didn't even go that far over. But I think we got a lot of interesting things in. Check out some Star Trek Online. Ooh,
Pardon me.
Don't die. Star Trek Online, Sunless Sea on the computer, Dice Masters for the board game, collectible game crowd. A lot of fun things. Any quick news or stuff you guys want to go over before we close it out? Anything interesting going on?
I'm finally thinking I'm over my sinus infection, so I don't sound like a miserable recluse. Yay.
And as soon as you recover, both of us
I'm
get
still
sick.
fighting the cold, the cough, so I still have the plague, but I'm getting over it.
We are all infected with plague.
Yes. Oh, I finally got a retail Deep Space Nine.
Ooh. Are you going to play it in your next tournament?
Considering my next tournament is a matter of honor, I don't think so, but maybe.
That'd be such a terrible idea.
It's got 8 hole. There's room.
Let's just collect all these tokens at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to collect them all. It's going to clear the board for everything else.
Actually, since you can only take 1 damage a turn, I could kind of see that working.
Just put someone that recovers hull on there.
Yeah, do Glendaro in your Dominion faction pure, because you're using Tarak Nor, because why would you ever use anything else?
There we go. See, I might actually do that.
Good old Star Trek Tackwing. Oh, on the WizKids front, there was a post today on the D&D Attackwing boards. At the Nationals, there will be a meet and beat with game designers, including Andrew Parks. For the Star Trek Attackwing players, you remember him as one of the designers that used to be on Star Trek Attackwing. He is now doing D&D Attackwing. He will be playing against the top 4 from Nationals, and if you beat him or the other guy who designed it, and I feel really bad for forgetting his name, but I will remember it next time probably. If you beat one of them, they will. The prize is to design your own upgrade card for a future expansion.
Wow.
Why won't they do this in Attackwing?
I know, right?
More so, why don't they just let the winner of Nationals do that anyways, like they do in X-Wing?
That was a fun one. Who was that? Paul Haverty?
Heaver. Paul Heaver.
Paul Heaver? That was close.
Yeah. But it's like, that's a reward. And that's somebody that knows the game.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you're winning Nationals, you know the game.
And it's really cool to know that you just have like a little bit of influence in it in the future.
Yeah.
Will,
X-Wing has such a limited upgrade pool. You do that in Star Trek. I mean, if it sucks, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And if it's great, well, then it's great.
Will, you should go up there and just look at Andrew Parks and just go, why?
No. Parks!
I wonder if there's a self-destruct I stab at the kind of thing in D&D. I'll have to look into my cards again. Parks! Cool. Alright, guys. I guess that'll do it for us for tonight, then. Thanks for joining us today on Change in Game. This has been Will Sanchez, a.k.a. Delta Angelfire, with his favorite co-host in the whole wide world, Tucker and David. Thanks for joining us on this kind of little day off hangout session / game review session, and hope that we showed you something interesting. And it's not Star Trek, so I don't have my normal exit. Tucker, come up with an exit thing. Done. Play more games. Oh wait, that's the other guy. Oops. Don't tell him.
Game on.
Game on. If you're ever bored, you can always look for a change in game. Have a good night, everybody.